Parents of uncool children, when did you realize your child wasn't one of the popular kids? Serious. My oldest son has always been quiet and a bit of an introvert. He is tall for his age, lanky, wears glasses, plays trombone in the school band and is a complete computer geek. There were never any delusions that he was going to be one of the popular kids. That said, he is popular amongst his fellow nerdlings. My youngest son has always been pretty popular, especially among the girls. We have had little girls calling the house, giggling and asking to speak to him since he was in 4th grade. He is in middle school now and I fear what it will be like when he gets into high school. I know my daughter is uncool. Why? I have no idea. She's a great kid, very outgoing and funny in that 3rd grade kind of way. She gets picked on a bit for the things she likes. Hello Kitty, Barbie, MLP, ACT. As a kid I was super unpopular too, and I tell her all the time not to worry about it. She'll find that group of friends who love her to death and wanna play with her. She came home last month very excited because she and a new girl in school had the same Hello Kitty backpack. They made fast friends, and I hope they stay friends. Her single dad is pretty cute and uber dorky like me. It was last month, not last week. If that's not a premise for a rom-com, I don't know what is. My daughter has always been quick to make friends. She always has someone to play with at the park. Kids follow her around like she's their leader, and she has a blast. In school, though, she's not popular. She is the oldest in her class because her birthday is so late in the year. So she's taller than everyone, started losing her teeth before the others, and more mature than some of them. The other kids pick on her, call her names, hide her things, make fun of her bunny teeth, adult teeth that are still at that cute but a little too big for your face stage, and give her a hard time. I don't understand it. She's so popular at playgrounds in the park, but she's an outcast at school. My oldest is a crybaby. I love him to bits, but he's a whiner of the highest order. I guess I realized it about when he left kindergarten. He's in 5th grade now and he still curls up in a ball with real tears whenever he thinks he might be in trouble. Even if he isn't, which he almost always isn't. I love him, but it's sad. When they reminded me of myself. My middle child loves video games and is amazing at academics and has mild autistic tendencies. My eldest loves bugs and animals and gets distracted easily. Neither one of them is prom king queen material. The youngest is a born cheerleader. I know that the older two could still be prom king queen. It's just an expression. The youngest is a born cheerleader. This would scare me. I've always been so far removed from the cheerleader type that I'd be afraid that I wouldn't be able to relate with my kid at all. Fair warning parents, if your kids are uncool, they are probably tech savvy. Clear your history before they find out you were on Reddit talking about how uncool they are. As a semi-uncool kid this is entirely true. When he cried all the time in 1st through 3rd grade, then in 5th grade, he insisted he was going to be a dragon hunter. That continued for a few years. He actually researched getting grants so he could travel to Europe to dig up dragon bones and prove they existed. Then he got into drawing swords and writing stories involving the swords. It's all good. I accepted him as he is and got him playing Magic and D&D. Now, he watches anime all the time and is working with people to develop and write an online RPG game and site while doing online schooling and working 2 PT jobs. I figured he wouldn't ever give me a grandchild, but she's due in July. That's pretty cool actually. He went ahead and did what he wanted to do. I don't know if she's uncool yet because she's too little, but I witnessed a situation that brought up a lot of feels. My 4-year-old daughter went to a birthday party of some little girl from her kindergarten. They had these mini blow-up jumping castles. I noticed 2 little girls standing at the entrance of one that blocked it when my daughter tried to get in and made up some rule about why she couldn't. I did laugh my butt off when my daughter immediately thought frick it and just ran around the back to the other entrance. But the girls got up and went to the other one when my daughter hopped in, leaving her in there alone. I got really depressed just watching her play by herself and the other girls being mean. Part of me wanted to deflate the other castle, sealing the little girls in a rubbery tomb. The other wanted to run over and just hug my daughter and never let go. Needlessly to say, I bought her lots of lollies and played with her like crazy after the party. But then a few days later when I dropped her off the kindergarten, some of the girls called out to her and ran over and started playing. I can't figure out toddler social dynamics. Toddlers are the masters of arbitrary hatred. There is a 10-year difference between me and my youngest brother, and I first noticed that he was just not a cool person when I picked him up from school and found out that he has a tendency to hiss like a cat at people when they said something he didn't like. God, I love the little weirdo. I'm an older sister by 8 years and I noticed my middle school sister wasn't popular simply on the basis she got bullied so much that she had to hide in the library during lunch, and she takes an odd route home to avoid the kids who would actually corner her on the way home. She's the extremely shy type and butthole kids don't really help that. They stole her lunch and spit in it once apparently, and she came home depressed one day because of it. That's awful. There's a huge difference between someone being uncool, unpopular, and someone being harassed by buttholes. I hope she's doing better now. Sucks to think parents have to think about this stuff. I'm graduating high school in a few months and I don't want my parents to throw me a grad party for this exact reason. I doubt anyone would come to it. I've got a fairly large group of friends, but I'm close with none of them. I kind of float around, not close to anyone and on decent terms with everybody. Sometime around middle school, it became apparent that regardless of who she tried to be friends with or how much effort she put into being social, she was always the odd one out, always the friend and never the best friend. No one calls her to hang out or go anywhere. She doesn't date. I still haven't figured out why, unless it is basic not wanting to be seen with someone who might be a lesbian. This is the southern US after all. It's killing her. It's killing me to see how isolated and left out she is. She's nearly done with high school and I can only hope that college will be better. For now she has an online group she considers friends. There's that, at least. She's nearly done with high school and I can only hope that college will be better. For now she has an online group she considers friends. There's that, at least. I wouldn't worry too much. She knows who she is as a person and what she enjoys. Let her pursue that. It's very probable that out of the limited number of kids present in her high school there just aren't kids that share her tastes. My son, who is almost 15, has several learning disabilities, ADD, dyspraxia and mild Asperger's. He finds it very difficult to make friends and keep them. He also struggles with low self-esteem. I've tried to get him into all sorts of different hobbies but he's not interested. The only thing he loves is video games, to the point that he could easily play them for 15 hours a day. He also has a very offbeat humor which most people don't get. I love him to bits because he's my son and his heart is in the right place, but I do worry about how he is going to get through life and form healthy friendships and relationships. I had 6 children, 5 girls and a boy. Some were popular and some weren't. My unpopular, kind of reserved and socially awkward. During primary school, son is in med school and will be a doctor next year. I don't think popularity is necessarily a good criteria for judging how your child is doing. In some classes the kind of behavior that allow you to fit into a class and be popular are not all that positive, such as bullying more vulnerable children. I think the most important thing is for children to be true to themselves and who they are, and not compromise that to fit in. Hopefully they will find friends who are like them. I thought that it was interesting that the creators of South Park were nerdy kids who didn't fit in. Sometimes the most successful school children are not all that successful when it comes to real life, and the children who are strong enough to be themselves can be quite successful. My youngest son is a future neckbeard. He's a great kid, and very active in Boy Scouts. He is 14 and only needs a few things to get his eagle. He can easily achieve it before 16. He is good in math and science and very well spoken when something interests him. He can explain plants and trees and geology of an area to younger scouts on a level far above the average 14 years old. But outside of scouts, he is very socially awkward. He has a hard time making friends, unless they are scouts or gamers. He's overweight, but not morbidly obese, and I guess average looks. I wish more of my wife's genes had kicked in. At home it's all Xbox and computers. He has no interest in the outside world. If I ask, hey, let's go walk the dogs down by the river, I just get no, I don't feel like it. If I'm working in the yard on a hot day, and my wife says, "Why don't you go and see if your dad could use some help?" his reply is usually, "If he needs me, he'll come get me." He's had his few middle school girlfriends that we all know are counted in weeks, but when they break up, he is devastated and becomes recluse for a while. His room is generally clean, but still smells of feet and butt. He won't shower or change clothes unless we tell him to. We actually held off to see how long he would do it. He wore the same t-shirt for 5 days over summer break. I didn't ask about underwear and socks. We just explained it and told him to shower and change. TLDR. Good, smart kid on the path to become future neckbeard that Reddit makes fun of. I realized it when we moved to a community with its own playground. My daughter is 5. She's so loving and sweet and very intelligent, but she's not good at making friends. She has no problem asking anyone to play, but most of the kids immediately shut her down and walk away. I have no clue why. Sometimes they'll give her some balls line about her having to stay in the ice castle, which is one corner of the playground. She asks if she can come out, but they tell her no, and then go off by themselves. So she sits there, dejected and defeated. She's such a genuinely good child and a good person, and I don't know why the other kids treat her like they do. I remember the same thing happening to me when I was her age. Kids can be such buttholes. I'm an uncool adult. I was never popular at school. I'm 51 and was pretty much a nerd before it was a recognizable thing. I liked maths, computers and philosophy and didn't like sports. In Australia in the 70s I was quite unpopular. Much to my surprise, my children are both popular, and my son in particular is very cool. He's good looking, already making some money as a child model. He's not very verbal, tends to give 1 or 2 word answers to things, often reacts coolly to new situations, makes friends easily and is quite popular at school. When he was younger in social situations I tried to guide him. Don't talk to that stranger, leave those people alone. You don't know them etc, but now at 5 I just leave him to it. He's actually better at these things than me. He just goes straight up to a new group of kids and within moments is accepted. I find it a bit surprising but I'm quite happy for him. Your son sounds like a future drug dealer. I knew before kindergarten that our son was not cool. He is an artsy, strange nerdy kid that is bad at sports. He couldn't catch a ball when all the other boys could. He is also brilliant, has near perfect pitch, can tell a joke better than anyone his age, and is particularly empathetic. He always consoles whoever is having a bad day. One of the aspects of his behavior that clued me into his wonderful nerdiness is that he'd construct a pretend world with all sorts of characters and scenarios, and could not understand why the other kids, excepting a few like-minded lovable oddballs, did not want to participate. He is picked on. It is amazing how cruel 5-year-old children can be. He is the target of the alpha male types. Until 2nd grade he did not realize that he was uncool, but then it hit him. He is now 10 and in 4th grade. His teachers tell us that he is well liked, but he does not have any friends, which my wife sees as a problem but I don't. He asked me once when he was 7 why other kids didn't like him. I pointed out that lots of people like him, just that the cool kids didn't want to include him in their clique, and that's okay. I let him know that neither his mother or I were ever cool, and we've done okay for ourselves in this world. He'll do fine in high school, honestly. The kids at my school love people like that. Get him into guitar and make sure he has some sense of how to dress and he'll do great. Aside from being a total geek for old school Mega Man, my 11-year-old is crazy proper and very white in an almost all black school. He gets called Whitey constantly and kids from the bus have beat the crap out of him and his little brother on more than a few occasions. He will now choke anyone who puts him on the defensive, which comes off a little bit like serial killer in training. Back to the proper thing. I once got a call from the principal because my son had set up a meeting with him, stating that he needed to switch schools because these kids all have behavioral issues and I can't get an education in this environment. No snark or smartassery. He was completely on point and very upset that the teacher didn't have her classroom under control. There is an hour director hiding in my kid's body. A little off, but dang do I like my boy. He sounds awesome. A handful of kids similar to the ones described in this post hang out in my classroom often on most of the day. during lunch, and after school. I teach art at a high school and it would seem my room is a safe place to land for all those uncool weirdos. I'm incredibly proud of that fact. I love those kids, they're my people. The art room is, in reality, the cool place to chill. I'm just gonna put this out there, because I think there is a generational gap for what is considered cool between every parent and child throughout the history of man. When I was in high school, I was far from cool, but held my own in my own way, was respected for being my own rare bird. Even though I didn't have a natural place within the hierarchy of cool, I decided to run for a class office for my senior year and went up against some more popular folks, but ended up winning by a landslide. I will never forget how crushed I was when I went home all elated and I told my mother that I won, and that look of shock on her face when she said, "I never thought you'd win. I didn't think you were one of the cool kids." So just note that being cool in the traditional sense doesn't mean that people don't notice, nor respect, nor understand or get someone. So what you may see as uncool in your child's sibling whatever may be respected by others, even if you can't understand nor see it from your vantage point. I think this is so important for people to understand. There is being popular by fitting in and then there is being popular by not fitting in, like you said, holding your own. I've never felt like I fit in specifically to one social group, but I kinda do my own thing and people really seem to respect that. I can flip this one for you. My parents are super nerdy. They'd show me pictures of them pre-me from sci-fi conventions. When I was little they would drag me to their medieval reenactment society. My dad is a total computer gadgets nerd. I was just never into the things they're into. I read the classics. They read Isaac Asimov. I liked Gossip Girl. They liked Doctor Who. I wanted to go to concerts. They wanted to go to the Renaissance Festival. High school came around and I started going out to parties. Was nominated for Homecoming Queen. College came and I joined a sorority. My mother swears she doesn't know where I came from because we're so different. She always jokes about the fact that she, of all people, had a daughter who was on the homecoming court and in a sorority. To go along with that, my mom was definitely bullied as a child. She's never really gone into it, but I can tell it was painful for her. But you know what? The older I get, the more I realize how awesome they are. Because they do what they like and they don't care what others think. I never had the self-confidence to do that, to stand out like that. When I was in high school, my dad wears rainbow suspenders and he rocks them. My mom is so weird, but in such a lovable and sincere way it's hard not to like her. I see the snickers people give her and I've heard the comments, even if she hasn't. But probably one of the best things I've learned from their nerdiness is that you should and can unapologetically and wholeheartedly be yourself, and enjoy what you enjoy. I'm the uncool son, so I can only answer how my parents dealt with it. My older brother was my polar opposite at school. Top rugby player, life of the party, student government president, and a very active social life. Basically the most popular kid in his grade. Me? I liked reading, video games, and artsy stuff. I played rugby too but was only okay at it, and while I did have a group of friends that shared similar interests, I wasn't going to many parties and would often prefer to just spend weekend nights at home reading. This worried my mother. At a previous school I'd been badly bullied and she was scared that it had emotionally scarred me and damaged my social skills. Possibly even that I was suffering from depression. She would constantly try to force me to be like my brother and we'd often fight about why I didn't go out or have many friends, girlfriend, etc. Not knowing what to do about it, she sought outside help and at age 14 she sent me to a psychiatrist. She told him all her concerns and I went through about 10-15 sessions with him. When he was done he sat my mother down and told her in no uncertain terms that I was not depressed, emotionally damaged, or socially inept. I was just a kid who seriously valued my personal time. He explained to her that trying to force me to be like my brother would only lead to me resenting her and she needed to change her approach to me. I wouldn't be the kid who talked to her about everything unless I came to her. If she bugged me I'd just shut down. My mum actually did take everything he said to heart and learned a different approach to interacting with me than my brother. As a result I have a wonderful relationship with her nearly 15 years later. I came out of my shell a little with age but still seriously value my alone time. She told me all this about 5 years ago and I had no idea. though looking back I can now tell when she started changing her way of interacting with me. She apologized for trying to push me to be like my brother and for sending me to a psychiatrist. The apology really wasn't necessary because it showed how much she cared. My daughters are 23 and 17. They both enjoy a lot of my favorite music, 80s new wave, the Beatles, and non-growly, melodic forms of metal. The elder's favorite is OC, the younger's is Within Temptation. Both love to read, like me. Both love anime and manga, like me. Both love video games, like me. They'll watch nature wildlife documentaries for fun, history docs for me. A couple of years ago, in my Father's Day card from them they wrote, "Thank you for being a nerd so it's okay for us to be nerds too. Mission completed." I was one of the you insert older sibling's name. Little brother. It wasn't a bad, I had my group of friends and was fine. It did get a little annoying at times but such is life. I feel you bro. My older brother was deputy head boy and my younger sister was his head girl. Massive comparisons were made. Looking back on it, they were complete teachers' pets. I am a much older sister, which is sort of similar in a lot of ways. I realized my brother wasn't one of the popular kids when I went to visit his school to show off the high school band program. The cute looking, well-spoken kids tend to stick together, and so do the less cute, dorky kids. I always sort of guessed though, because he had always been that weird gamer kid with beta tendencies and hardly ever got invited to birthday parties. It was just confirmed when I went to visit him. That's pretty interesting. I've always had the opposite. Growing up I always thought my older brother was the coolest mother in the world, but as I caught up to his level and went through high school myself, he's 5 years older, I started to realize that he really just occupies a niche socially, and isn't necessarily a popular person at all. My son is 10. I think I realized he is not part of the popular crowd last year. He had a sort of falling out with his best, and only, friend. After they stopped hanging out, I'd ask him who he played with at recess or who he sat with at lunch and he'd tell me he played alone and sat at the end of the lunch table alone by the trash can. It broke my heart. He's such a sweet kid, pretty sensitive, quiet, but not super shy, more of an observer. He's not the first to jump into an activity, but give him time and he'll participate. His interests have always been different than those of the popular crowd. We tried various sports, a season of soccer and a basketball camp, only to come out of those with a lesson on teamwork and how it's not fair to the rest of the team to quit halfway through the season. He's had ambitions to be a paleontologist since 2nd grade. He can remember facts about dinosaurs that he's read 2 years ago. He's incredibly intelligent. He's also a huge Star Wars fan. His favorite is The Empire Strikes Back. We put him in Cub Scouts so he can socialize with kids who aren't into sports. But by the time he joined, most of the boys in the troop already knew each other. I try to dress him in what the kids are wearing. Hollister, Aero, etc. He has no preference for what he wears. And if I can take away one thing that kids always single other kids out for, then I'll do it. Overall, I think he'll be okay. He's got 2-3 friends with similar interests. He's a smart kid. If he can get through middle school and high school, I think he'll do just fine. My parents moved and my little sister had to start high school in a new town and I was worried she wouldn't make many friends. I was excited when she joined a small group and started hanging out with them, until she wore a fake tail to school one day. Oh dear. My daughter is a beautiful, smart, and friendly 5th grader. Ever since she was a tiny toddler, all she ever wanted was to be friends with everybody and make people happy. She would go up to random people anywhere we went and try to make friends with them. She is a social butterfly and can literally strike up a conversation with anyone. Last year, we invited her entire class of about 20 kids to her birthday party. Nobody RSVP'd. It broke my heart. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.